guess I'm not situated yet. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 16, 2020 Muscatine City Council meeting. Cinda, will you please do the roll call?
Councilmember Hopkins,
Present.
Freilich,
Present.
Malcolm,
Present.
Gordon,
Present.
Brockert,
Present.
Gendrich,
Present.
Brackett.
Present.
7 present, 0 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. Will you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight we have a couple of opportunities to swear in 2 new firefighters for the city of Muscatine. Will firefighter McCartney and Howell please join me at the podium? Good evening. We have first firefighter McCartney. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Mike McCartney,
I, Mike McCartney,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the constitutions
that I will support the constitutions
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of Iowa,
and the state of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties of firefighter
discharge all the duties of firefighter
in the city of Muscatine, Iowa,
in the city of Muscatine, Iowa,
as now or hereafter
as now or hereafter
required by law.
required by law.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Please wait just a second while we swear in Officer Howell. Please raise your right hand. I, Zach Howell,
I, Zach Howell,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the constitutions
that I will support the constitutions
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of Iowa,
and the state of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties of firefighter
discharge all the duties of firefighter
in the city of Muscatine, Iowa,
in the city of Muscatine, Iowa,
as now or hereafter
as now or hereafter
required by law.
required by law.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Need you both to sign here, and then we will pose for a picture. And then I would ask you to go around the front of the podium so council can welcome and congratulate you. Go ahead. Kevin, you want to start there? Please.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Welcome.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Congratulations, Zach. Good luck. Mike, congratulations. Good luck.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations to both of you and welcome, and congratulations to all of your families as well. You are welcome to leave. We'd love to have you stay, but I know you probably want to have a celebration.
Didn't have to say that twice.
No.
Does that go for,
What kind of cake?
Yeah, not you, John.
What kind of cake? I'm up for cake.
It's our cake.
it goes right to the Ponderosa?
Crap.
That's good.
For 2, I think it's awesome. That's awesome.
Cherry pie before I left and came here.
That's not fair.
They should do one of the desserts where you light it on fire.
Christmas.
Baked Alaska.
Yeah.
Or what's the banana thing? Something banana Foster.
Yeah.
You light that on fire.
We're going to go ahead and continue on with tonight's agenda. Next, we have an appeal by Curtis Clark concerning the removal of their dog from the city of Muscatine. Is Mr. Clark here? Please come to the podium if you will. Please state what you would like council to consider.
All right, thank you all for hearing me out.
Will you start with your name and address, please?
Yep, Curtis Clark, 108 Laurel Street, here in Muscatine.
Thank you. Can you get it up or no? Uh-oh. Oops. No pressure.
Bear with me, public speaking isn't my strong point
It's
here.
okay. Go ahead.
Thanks again for hearing me. I want to start out, what I'm appealing is the verdict of the removal of my dog. In 2016, I purchased an Alaskan Malamute from an AKC breeder since he was a puppy. I've raised him along with my two other dogs, one actually being a rescue dog since he was born. He isn't my first dog I've raised, so I know human-animal interaction is very important when you're raising a dog. He's been around many, many people. My 6-year-old son, 2-year-old, 6-year-old nephews, my 95-year-old living grandfather, strangers, neighbors. He's been around many different animals, leashed, unleashed, with me, without me, with 0 incidents. Recently, on 2 occasions, this year and last year, he got off my property without my knowledge due to my gate latch not latching correctly and was roaming my neighborhood. In both instances, he got in an altercation with the neighbor dog, in which the other dog did have to see the vet for, injuries. Both times, I wasn't aware of the situation until a responding officer brought my dogs back with no issues. After the altercation, they came right to him and went right to my yard and talked to me about it. Both times, I asked the responding officer simple questions like, what happened? Is the other dog okay? Was there witnesses? And I got little feedback back. His main response was, the animal control officer will talk to you tomorrow. And I said, all right. I received little feedback that even the second time, the owner of the other dog completely pepper sprayed him, and I wasn't even known about it until my face became swollen and completely intolerable. So I received little information about what happened. The next day, the animal control officer came, was very polite. The first time she explained, your dog got in an altercation. Since he had to see a vet, your dog has to be supervised, confined, and see a vet for examination, which I did everything that was asked. I paid the fine for him roaming the neighborhood. All was good. This recent time, same thing, she was polite, but she said this time, since he had to see the vet again, that I'd have to either remove him or put him to sleep. Once again, I asked her, I was like, was there any witnesses? Is there any, did my dog actually start this fight, or was he just roaming? She said, well, the other dog was on a leash. I understand if another dog is on a leash, but that doesn't, determine the behavior of a dog, whether they're on a leash. My dog's 122 pounds. The other dog is a 22-pound Boston Terrier. If you had to choose which one was going to win in a fight, I'm going to tell you which one won, but it doesn't build the character of my dog. He is a very caring, loving teddy bear, and I wish any of you guys could meet him because you'd fall in love with him. I've paid my fines. I've followed everything that was asked of me. I still don't feel like this was properly investigated. I don't feel like there was no trial or any attempt to find out if my dog is actually a vicious animal. What's saying this other dog, a year later doesn't get out and attack a dog? Is someone going to look back and be like, oh, maybe that was the vicious dog? No, they're not going to. They automatically just judged my dog since he was a bigger dog, as a vicious dog. And I don't agree with that, and I hope you guys hear me out on that. I'm more than willing to have any vet examine him, obedience trainer. He is not what he's being labeled as, and I would hope that you guys would consider allowing me to keep him in the city.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. We have all read the report, and I would ask council if they would like to ask any questions of you, and then I would have the chief come up, or is our animal control officer here tonight? Okay, so we'll have the chief come up and kind of fill us in on his side of what the story is from the animal control officer, but we have all read the report. So council, what questions do you have? Councilman Malcolm?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Your fence, in here, you say your fence needed to be repaired. Has that been done?
Yes.
Okay.
It's, right now I have padlocks on the gates. It can't be repaired due to the ground, but I do have a contractor lined up as soon as the weather is able to, what it is, it's a leveling issue. When the ground freezes, it lifts the gate. So right now I have the latch padlocked.
So this other person's dog who was injured, did you find out what the cost was for veterinary services for her dog or his dog?
Yeah, I am actually currently paying them.
Okay, okay. That's all I had a question.
Quick question on your fencing. How tall is your fencing?
6 foot.
Is it a
It's
6
it's a
foot?
privacy fence, yes.
Okay. Good. If you said 4,
No, there's no way they can get out other than the gate, which, without me knowing when I bought the property, I didn't realize the ground would mess up the gate door, so.
Also, are they properly licensed to the city?
Yeah, the Malamute that has escaped, he is fully up to date, he's licensed, he's registered, he has his tags on him.
Awesome.
He is good to go.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Yes. What are you doing in the meantime when this dog goes outdoors for any purpose whatsoever to make sure that he stays in the yard?
Once I said my gates are padlocked, I actually don't have him at the time. I was cooperating with the animal control officer. I actually have him, he's staying with my mom, and she lives in Milan, Illinois. So she's kind of watching him, a little bit bigger than she can handle, but she's watching him for me while I go through this appeal process.
Councilman Fraley?
This happened twice. One incident, you're saying that the gate was the issue. Why was the other one? What was the reason for the other time when the dog escaped from there?
Both times were due to the fence. It was in January and I believe December.
So
The first time I didn't know it was due to the ground frozen. The second time I had someone come and look at the fence, and that's what they told me.
So one of the times was just last month, right?
Yes.
And the other time was?
It's a year ago in
12 months
December.
ago?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So did you do anything to work on why the dog got out a year ago?
I didn't know why. At the time, my sister was living with me. I thought maybe she left the gate open. When I first moved into this house, I had a problem with MPW. My meter was in the yard, and they would leave the gate open, and they would get out, and I'd have a neighbor calling me saying, hey, your dog's over here. You want to come get him? I'd be like, yeah, I'll come get him. Until I found out that MPW was leaving my gate open, so
Okay.
that's what I thought the issue was until this last time.
Anyone, go ahead.
What, do you know the severity of the injuries to the other dog? I mean, if you're paying the vet bill, I would assume you have some
I
knowledge.
don't know the exact severity. He had to receive stitches, is what I know. So he was at the vet for a time. He had to receive, one was a minor surgery, which was the stitches.
Okay, and was that the second time or the first time?
First time.
And this most recent time, was it, you don't know, was there any skin break or anything? That
I think it was skin break. I think he had to get stitches again in the chest.
Okay.
That was it for you?
Yeah,
That was all you had?
at the moment.
Anyone else?
Mr. Clark, then, on the first time that your dog attacked the other dog, there was a witness because someone had to call?
Yeah, I asked.
And the owner of the dog on the leash couldn't break away from their dog being attacked, is that right? So
when I asked the animal control officer, they said the witness was her daughter. So I'm not discrediting them. I'm not saying, but in my advantage or my situation, you know, having two owners of the dog as witnesses, I don't know if it would tell the, you know, the full truth or not, whether my dog just randomly ran up and started attacking this dog, or if their dog was defending them or felt defensive, or who knows. I don't know the behavior or what happened, other than the statements of the other owners.
But there's no question that the other owner had their dog on a leash.
That is what the animal control officer told me, it was on a leash.
I think what the rationale is then is if your dog was loose and this dog was on a leash, it would seem that it makes sense that your dog was the aggressor. If the dog on the leash was trying to be assertive with your dog could have just walked away.
My dog is a very playful dog, and I'm assuming he wanted to go up and interact with the humans. I mean, this is a very common trait of him. He runs up, he likes to put his paws and, you know, get to know him. My feelings or my thoughts is he tried to do that, and the other dog was getting defensive or felt like he needed to protect its owners and tried to attack him, and he defended himself, or whatever happened.
Okay,
That is how I feel, but I understand the other dog was on a leash.
thank you. Counsel, anything else?
I guess basically, I just, you know, I would like to say that I understand the situation you're in. I have a large dog as well. As much as I am an animal lover, I'm not sure where I can go on this one. If it was my dog that had gotten out and done that, I would be very upset. And I have seen my dog also run up to people, want to play, and be attacked by the dog that they had next to them. Fortunately, I didn't have the same incident, you know, as this, and I was present at the time. And so, given that, I you know, I don't want to take your dog, but I don't know that I can find a way to support an alternate option there. I would like to hear from the chief. Any additional information, though, that he might be able to provide.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you guys for your time.
Could I just, maybe one thing,
Sure.
Mayor, is that okay?
Yes, go ahead.
The second attack, you're not aware of the extent of the injuries, or?
No, they told me it was a chest wound, and it was a higher vet bill, so I think was more stitches. I don't know the full thing. I didn't get that much information from the police officer or the animal control officer. She offered to show me pictures, but I didn't want to see pictures. I was kind of upset that I was being told my dog was being removed, so.
Understand. Thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead, chief.
Sorry, the animal control couldn't be here tonight. She had to babysit, I guess, so.
Okay.
He was pretty spot on with kind of what happened with this, other than the dog was on a leash both times, and we feel that the dog was attacked by his dog. It is, like I say, within the same year. It's 2 times. If you look at city ordinance, we really don't have much of a choice. We could actually do it after 1 bite, whether it's an animal or a human being. So we feel at this point that the dog really should be removed from the city. You know, it's not fair to that other dog to keep getting attacked by a dog just because it keeps getting out. So I'm just kind of going by, you know, what the city ordinance says, and it was on the sidewalk, so.
Counsel, any questions for the chief?
It is the responsibility of the owner to maintain his property so that the animal can stay safe and the people around him can stay safe. I think it's totally his responsibility, and there are several codes, 68-6 and 6813 and 6810 are all violated. That in itself twice it's a hard one to argue with.
Certainly. Well, counsel, is there any counsel that would like to take an action to overturn?
I have one question I'd like to.
Go ahead.
Chief, was there an incident report written of the event? You know, like police people, you like writing reports. So was there an incident report by the animal control person?
Animal control does all that, and there was actually, he was talking about the injuries. There was pretty substantial injuries, and there was pictures, and I don't know if we have those tonight or not, but we could probably pass those around.
My question was he made aware that he could get a copy of that and pay for whatever he needed to get a?
Sure, yeah, the animal control, that's her function, is the officer just goes out initially, takes the initial call on it, and then the animal control usually follows up on that unless she's on vacation or something. Then the officer would handle it. But she did both of these. And he's correct, he did pay all of his fines on this too. I think he was written for dog at large for both of them. So,
Well, my question was finding out, did he get an opportunity to get a copy of the complaint that was,
sure, anybody's can come down and pay for that, yeah.
and did he, to your knowledge, did he?
Not to my knowledge, I don't know that, no.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I guess the only thing I've got left to say is that I wish I could come to some reason to overturn this, but I can't find one. I really do wish that I could, but it would be, I think, inappropriate for the person whose dog was injured in this case, regardless of the circumstance, since it was off your property.
And please understand, I don't think that this is anything that anyone wants to do, to separate someone from their pet, because we all know how loved our pets are, and we do know that things happen. I think the problem here is that it happened twice, and it wasn't solved after the first time, and nobody wants this to happen. We're very sad about it, as we know that you are.
Yeah, because I'm an animal lover too.
I understand, and I'm not hearing any counsel that's willing to overturn
Yeah.
it.
I'm sorry, but that's, it's the way it really has to be. In the summer of 2018 in my neighborhood, I have a small dog as well. He's a Cavalier King Charles Bichon mix. I used to walk him up and down Cheryl Street until I heard that the small Havanese was attacked by another larger dog, and the Havanese did not survive. Needless to say, I don't walk by that home anymore. So I hope you understand that we're in a spot where we have to go by ordinance.
Thank you for understanding. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we continue, I would just like to share our condolences and our thoughts and prayers are with the recent loss of Mayor Guy from Bluegrass this week. Continuing on, is there anyone here tonight who would like to speak to council about something that's not on tonight's agenda? Hearing nothing, we'll continue. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm the owner of Buddy, the dog that was attacked. Do you have any further questions?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you.
We're going to go ahead and move on then. The following items are continued to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the council member so requests, in which case it would be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, which includes items 6A and B, items 8A through E, items 9A and B, items 12A through E, and tonight's bills totaling $2,024,051.33.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Freilich with a second by Councilman Brackett. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. We're going to continue down to number 7. We have one public hearing tonight, and it concerns the approval of plans, specifications, form of contract, and cost estimate for the Grandview Avenue reconstruction project. The design process is essentially complete, and the plans have been submitted to the Iowa Department of Transportation. This project goes from Main Street to approximately 200 yards past Hauser Street. A public information meeting was held on December 17th of 2019. Now is the time for the public to comment. Hearing nothing, do I have a motion to close?
Move to close.
Second?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilwoman Gordon. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Next, we have a proclamation. This is a proclamation for the 19th Amendment Centennial Commemoration. Whereas in 1848, people gathered together in Seneca Falls, New York, and cited the unfairness of depriving women of the right to vote. And whereas the fight for women's suffrage from the first women's rights convention to enfranchisement lasted more than 72 years, with women from all walks of life, political views, and demographic backgrounds asking for the right to voice their opinion at the polls. And whereas Iowa women by the thousands advocated for the right to vote, and suffragists nationwide turned to public education and persuasion. They held conferences, campaigned, lobbied, marched, pleaded, petitioned, and suffered public disdain, violent opposition, and prison. And whereas suffragists pushed for a single constitutional amendment granting female suffrage on the federal level, dubbed the Susan B. Anthony Amendment. And whereas Carrie Chapman Catt led the national movement, meeting with President Woodrow Wilson to secure his support for suffrage in light of women's contributions during World War I. And whereas it took male allies to support women in their endeavor to vote, for it was sons, husbands, fathers who ultimately heard the calls of women, and the House of Representatives took a historic vote on May 21, 1919, followed by the Senate on June 4, 1919, and 3/4 of the states needed to ratify the 19th Amendment. And whereas Iowa was the 10th state to ratify the 19th Amendment on July 2nd, 1919, and Tennessee was the 36th state to ratify the 19th Amendment, making it the law of the land on August 26, 1920, whereby millions of women were enfranchised. And whereas the introduction, passage, and ultimate ratification of the 19th Amendment were the culmination of decades of work and struggles by advocates for the rights of women across the United States. And whereas the ratification of the 19th Amendment ensured women could more fully participate in our democracy and fundamentally changed the role of women in the civic life of our nation. And whereas most of the women who began asking for the right to vote never lived to see the enfranchisement of women, and whereas the daughters, granddaughters, and great-granddaughters of the women who fought so hard to vote have been making their voices heard at the polls for nearly 100 years. And whereas women are running for office in unprecedented numbers, many current politicians, both male and female, remember that they follow in the footsteps of these great suffragists. And whereas the centennial anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment represents a historical milestone to be lauded and celebrated, now therefore be it resolved that the city of Muscatine, number 1, commemorates the 100th anniversary of the passage and ratification of the 19th Amendment, providing for women's suffrage to the Constitution of the United States. And number 2, honors the role of the ratification of the 19th Amendment in further promoting the core values of our democracy as promised by the Constitution of the United States. And number 3, reaffirms the opportunity for people in the United States to learn about and commemorate the efforts of the women's suffrage movement and the role of women in our democracy. And number 4, reaffirms the desire of Muscatine citizens to continue strengthening democratic participation and to inspire future generations to cherish and preserve the historic precedent established under the 19th Amendment. Now therefore I, Diana Broderson, Mayor of the City of Muscatine, Iowa, do hereby proclaim that the citizens of Muscatine shall enjoy the freedom of voter participation, continue to fight for voting rights for all citizens, and celebrate this important milestone by proclaiming the calendar year 2020 to be the 19th Amendment Centennial Commemoration. I would like to ask Sue Johansson to meet me at the podium so that I can give her the proclamation and ask if you'd like to say a few words. You may bring your friends. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Holly. And Chris? Here you go.
Thank you.
Please say a few words. I know you have a lot going on.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate the proclamation tonight. We've been working across the state of Iowa. This recognition of hard won, not done is a statewide effort to recognize the 19th Amendment and 100 years of women's right to vote. And there are some things that are that stand out for me, and some of them were identified in the proclamation. But the inclusion of women was important. The inclusion of all people is important today, whether we're including men or women or other people, regardless of the identity that we're speaking of. The inclusion of people in our democracy is terribly important. People here in Muscatine are active. We've got a group of women's writers who are writing about women of influence and inspiration, people who lived perhaps 100 years ago, maybe 50 years ago. And our local group is collaborating with many of the agencies here in town, the Arts Center, the library, the community college, local businesses, and many individuals. I certainly invite all of you to participate in the events that may be you become aware of and are interested in that recognize the 19th Amendment centennial. And I hope that people will recognize how important the vote is, how precious it is, how it strengthens our democracy when people are registered and they go to vote. And it is my hope that everyone will exercise their franchise this year in a presidential year, and that if you're not registered, please consider registering and vote in the elections. Do you have
Thank
anything you
you.
want to say? Could we approach council? We have a couple flyers.
Certainly.
Thank you.
I know we have a very big celebration at the Arts Center starting on Sunday, which will have several different
Thanks, Chris.
pieces of women
Thanks, Holly.
of importance right here in Muscatine. Thank you.
Nice job, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
I know, it's dry, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. We appreciate all that you do. We are going to continue on with tonight's agenda. We are on 11A, and we have presented for City Council's consideration a resolution approving the plan's specification, form of contract, and cost estimate for the Grandview Avenue reconstruction project that we addressed in Public Hearing A. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved. Second, I'm sorry.
We have a motion by Councilman Hopkins with a second by Councilman Gendrich. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Councilwoman Gordon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Freilich?
Aye.
Councilman Hopkins?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilman Gendrich?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
And Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
This resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11B. We have presented for City Council's consideration a resolution setting a public hearing for February 6th of 2020 at 7 p.m. regarding the zoning changes for the Grandview Senior Lofts. The Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Muscatine has been requested to rezone 7.59 acres located on the north side of Grandview Avenue from M1 Light Industrial and R2 Single Family Residential to R6 Multi-Family Residential. The applicant has also requested this to enable the construction of a 51-unit multifamily dwelling for low and moderate income seniors. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilman Gendrich with a second by Councilwoman Gordon. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Councilman Hopkins, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Freilich?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gordon?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Gendrich?
Aye.
And Councilwoman Brockert.
Aye.
This resolution is also adopted with all ayes. We are on 11C. We have presented for City Council's consideration a resolution setting a public hearing for February 6th of 2020 at 7 p.m. regarding the zoning changes for Colorado senior lofts. The Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Muscatine has been requested to rezone 4.56 acres located at 400 Colorado from M3 multifamily residential to R6 multifamily residential. The applicant has also concurrently requested the voluntary annexation to enable the construction of a 51-unit multifamily dwelling for low and moderate income seniors. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Freilich. Is there any discussion?
I have a question, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Andrew, what's the difference between M3 multifamily and R6 multifamily?
Mayor, council, one is the zoning district out in unincorporated Muscatine County. One is the zoning district that would be upon annexation into the city.
Okay.
The reason that they have to go through the rezoning in addition to the annexation is by city code, when a property is annexed into the city, it's automatically placed in the ag district. So this is
Okay, thank
setting
you.
that piece of it up.
Thank you. Hearing nothing else, Councilman Malcolm, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Gendrich?
Aye.
Councilman Freilich?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Hopkins?
Aye.
And Councilwoman Gordon.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11D. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution approving the final plat of Stanley Woods Addition. The New Hope Foundation submitted a preliminary final plat for a one-lot subdivision located at 115 Sunset Drive. This subdivision will create a new 4.26-acre parcel containing the existing residence at 115 Sunset Drive. The intent of subdivision is to facilitate the sale of the existing home. Said plat has been approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission and fully conforms with the City of Muscatine ordinances. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Brockert with a second by Councilwoman Gordon. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Councilman Hopkins, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Freilich?
Aye.
Councilman Gendrich?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gordon?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. We are on 11E. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution authorizing the assessment of unpaid abatement costs to private properties. The nuisance abatement costs total $2,273.38. The administrative fees are $1,025, and the assessment fees are $1,050. The total fees being requested for assessment at this time total $4,348.38. Do I have a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Councilman Malcolm, with a second by Councilman
Second.
Gendrich? Yes. Any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Brackett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Freilich?
Aye.
Councilman Hopkins?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Gendrich?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gordon?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. We are on 11F. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution adopting the implementation of fees for saw cutting city streets. Effective March 1 of this year, the City of Muscatine will require all saw cuts for pavement removal to be cut to full depth of existing pavements. In the past, the city crews have performed these cuts on a will call basis for no charge. This practice is no longer sustainable, and a fee schedule has been created to allow city staff to continue to perform the work if requested, and to allow the city to recover the costs of the operations. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Gendrich with a second by Councilman Brackett. Do I have any discussion? Go ahead.
I'd just like to know approximately how many times a year we're going out and doing it for private individuals or for entities. And what it costs us to do that.
Mayor and Council, thank you. We don't do it very often. There are a handful of contractors who don't have the equipment to saw to the full depth. Typical full depth is anywhere between 6 and 8 inches. Most contractors have what they call a partner saw or quickie saw. They'll cut about 3 inches. And the issue is that when they cut that, they'll score the top and they'll try to break it out. And underneath that, the concrete breaks underneath, and they'll have a cavity underneath there. So there are a few that will call us to have us do that. In the past, we have done that simply for the fact that we can control that joint so that we know we won't have a breakage going on. But it does take quite a bit of our time and equipment costs. Those blades are very expensive. They're about $1,100 a piece. So to get where the fee that we proposed is, we proposed $200 mobilization fee, which is the cost of 2 individuals and the equipment to get to wherever the call is. And we based our saw cut fee. The saw blades can go about 75 feet. So we estimate that, and then they're pretty much dull. So we figured, I forgot to bring the math with me, but we figure we can it takes about 30 minutes to do 75 feet. So we broke it down to $15 a foot is basically how the math works out for that. We did add $5 to that just to cover some of the costs for the employees while they're doing the cutting. Pretty good deal. So we just kind of, assumed $20 a linear foot, $200 for the mobilization. That's how we got to those numbers.
As long as our costs are covered.
That won't cover all of them, but it will help us offset the cost of the blade. The blades are the big cost, and the time. We do lose time away from other things if we do this for other folks. So,
Any other questions?
But it's reassuring to the contractors in the community that this isn't a money-making process at all.
no, definitely not. We're not in the business of making money. We're not in the business of taking money or business away from other people that have these saws as well. So that's the balance we have to run there too. There are companies that could provide this service for a fee. We're just trying to break even and use our time at better places. So,
Thank you, Brian.
thank you.
Hearing nothing else, Councilman Brackett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Gendrich?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Hopkins?
Aye.
Councilman Freilich?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gordon?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11G. We have presented for City Council's consideration a request to approve the renewal of an interagency agreement between the Iowa Department of Inspections and Appeals and the Muscatine Municipal Housing Agency. Do I have a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Brackett with a second by Councilman Brackett and a second by Councilwoman Gordon. Any discussion? Hearing nothing, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. We're on 11H. Presented for City Council's consideration as a request to approve a professional services agreement with Stanley Consultants for the high-strength waste digester rehabilitation project. This project is designed to create additional digester capacity at the treatment plant. Stanley Consultants has submitted a proposed agreement not to exceed $135,000. There is $150,000 budgeted for the expense. Do I have a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Hopkins with a second by Councilman Freilich. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. We're on 11I. Come on up, John. So we have a request to approve the issuance of a purchase order. We have a couple of little minor changes. So we have presented for City Council's consideration a request to approve the issuance of a purchase order to Sittler's Supplies Incorporated and the amount of $36,165 for the purchase, installation, and warranty of LED lights and light fixtures to replace all the lights and fixtures at the transfer station and recycling center. Do I have a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilwoman Gordon. Discussion.
I like this price better.
Yes, much better.
I knew
We're
you would
sorry
have
for this.
questions.
Go ahead.
Mayor, Council,
Yes,
John
go
Cook
ahead.
with your Water and Resource Recovery Facility. So you can ask the questions, or I can just tell you what happened.
No, I'm just curious, John, because normally you put stuff in front of us, and the famous line I like saying with you is, it's budgeted for already, and I don't see that in that line, so I want to know where the money coming from.
Yeah, it's budgeted. There is money left in the high strength waste project.
Okay,
For
okay.
for these extra purchases.
Because I see there's some
I
changes
think
here.
we all had that question written down. What's this budgeted for?
Well, the
where
high
that
strength
money
waste project has an extras list. I've sent that out several times.
Gotcha.
And the lights have been on it. We always had a price of $106,000 in there. That includes office lights. It includes another building. It includes all kinds of stuff that came from another quote that we had. And we went to get other quotes, and I found somebody that was obviously much less expensive, and I wrote the memo for it, and then I sent the wrong memo to Cinda. But all the quotes, if you have all the quotes there that came with the memo, you'll notice that the $106,000 isn't on any of them, but $36,000 is. So I'm afraid that's my mistake. I've been sick. I was not here for staff meeting on Monday, which is where I would have caught this and had it changed for you all. So I do apologize. I hope we can proceed with this as it is. I'll get you the correct memo first thing tomorrow morning. I just kind of happened to notice it today. It's my first day back. I think you can tell I'm still not 100%.
Councilman Freilich?
I just have a small question. Based on what you've written, there's a $24,000 annual savings, and over 53 months, we'll have a payback on the investments. My question is, how long are these lights going to last?
They have 10-year warranty.
10-year warranty.
And so these are LED lights. They last a long time. These things are.
The fixtures themselves will last long? I know the bulbs will, but.
Yeah, the fixtures, I
work?
mean, they all have drives on them, and the bulb's as good as a drive, really. Those bulbs will last a long time, so I'm hoping that we're not getting a bad deal. I looked up the quality of the product that we were getting, and they looked excellent. The specs were comparable to everybody else. They just had a much better price than everyone, so I think we should proceed with that. I think $36,000 is, and the quote I was going to give was the top one was going to be 64. So, but that's even better still. So we're still doing quite well with this project, and we'd like to get it done right away as soon as we can. We're in there working on the machine right now. We'll be running it on Wednesday, and there's about 6 lights that work in that place. So,
It's really dark
I'm
in
sure in the summer when it's nice and sunny out, it'll be great. But this time of year, it's awfully dark in there, in that building. So,
Any other questions? Hearing none.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. We're on 11J. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the issuance of a purchase order to Illinois Lift Equipment in the amount of $25,774 for the purchase of a forklift and rotating assembly for the new Organics Recycling Center. There's money in the high-strength waste project budget for the purchase of this equipment. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Gordon with a second by Councilman Brackett. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. We are now on 11K. We have presented for City Council's consideration a request to approve a proposal that all municipal buildings in the City of Muscatine, Iowa fly and/or publicly display the City of Muscatine's flag. Upon approval of the request, Muscatine flags will be available for purchase at the City Hall Finance Department and the Muscatine Chamber of Commerce. Do I have a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Malcolm with a second by Councilman Brackett. Is there any discussion? Go ahead.
Your Honor, I found it amazing as I visit through the city that this flag is not the one that's right behind you, not publicly displayed. I found it as a visit in some of the nursing facilities. Some of the residents there said they've been there. One lady in particular was 90 years young, lived here all her life, and didn't even know the city had a flag. The flag represents who we are and our heritage and where we came from. Just like in the military fight for the United States flag. I believe that if we display city pride in the flag, our community will fight for it. And this is not just for city businesses. I like to see residents come to the finance office and buy a flag and put it out their house. I'm happy to say that since I've been here promoting this idea, the high school now is flying the city flag. Muscatine Community College now has a city flag in display. I like to see them all over town. It bothers me that I can go to Davenport, other places, and their flags everywhere, and nobody here even knows we have one. And so I hopefully we move this to be a thing to say, this is who we are and we're proud of our flag.
Any other discussion? Oh,
Go ahead, Nadine.
go ahead.
Do we have any idea how much it's going to cost to retrofit our flagpoles so we can display another flag on it?
Can I bounce off of that real
Sure.
quick? Because it does pertain to that. In addition to that question, the language in the request, to me, would indicate that we'd be able to, in some places where it's not feasible, to put in a flagpole due to either current budget or just the physical limitations of the property, displaying it on a pole such as this would be, is that considered adequate?
That's appropriate, or
It says and/or publicly display.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, because I thought about the art center. Well, they probably don't have funding, and you know, we didn't include that in. It doesn't cost a lot, I don't think, for them to add lanyards to put extra flags underneath the American flag, like they did over at MCC. But places like the art center, they can put it on a board and do whatever they do to decorate it, and you know, as you walk in the building, see it. I mean, just whatever is convenient and easy. I'm trying to keep this very inexpensive, but get the flag out there. Sure. I understand that Muscom Lighting is going to do a new flag as soon as they start working on their build out. I think the fire department and the police department needs one out there in front of their public service building, you know, right by the chief's office.
Did you have something to add?
We asked for a report from the staff about how many buildings we have, and there's 42 pages of those on the insurance thing. So can this be identified, or can we consider having this at locations where the public would visit? Or how would we want to limit it to some? I mean, just, I don't want to take.
Yes. Let's not get unreasonable. This is about public access and public viewing. You know, I think it'd be kind of hard to say, if John at his water reclamation area, he has a flag there, and that almost knocked me down when I got out to walk into a meeting over there, but I was so proud to see that. But I'm not saying that if it's not possible, but yes, definitely a public access place.
Public buildings, makes sense.
Yeah, you know, I don't think we need to put one in the recycling center where people are bringing stuff to be dumped and all that, just, you know.
But you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because where it is now, watch this. I found it interesting going to the golf course. There's an American flag, but there's not a Muscatine flag. You know?
So could we ask that it be amended to state that that's what we're intending, is it will go to
Public access
Yeah,
building,
public access
please.
facilities? Yes?
I would offer the amendment that it be pertain to buildings that are accessed by the public.
Thank you.
I second it.
So we have an amendment on the table right now.
Right. So we have a motion and a second for the amendment. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That request is approved. We'll go to the original vote now. Hearing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This request is approved with all ayes.
So now you get a flag. You
There
get
you
a
go.
flag. You know, the Muscatine Journal wants a flag.
There you go. We are on 11L. You worked hard for that, Councilman.
Yes. Twist my arm.
We're on 11L, presented for City Council's consideration as a request to approve the proposed description and duties of the Ad Hoc Search Committee. This committee will make recommendations to the City Council of a search firm, conduct initial candidate selection, and make recommendations to the City Council of 3 to 5 candidates for their consideration. The committee will be led by the mayor and facilitated by the HR director. The committee will include the mayor, 2 members of City Council nominated by the mayor, and 2 members of staff nominated by the interim city administrator. Do I have a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilwoman Gordon. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Are we going to invite any members of the public?
We are going to add 2 members of the public after we get through this initial part of choosing the search firm. So as soon as we get a little bit farther into the process, then the interim city administrator and myself will be talking about 2 candidates from the public, because we want this to be a city decision as we move
Okay,
forward.
thank you.
Any other questions?
So
please?
how are the 2 people from the public going to be chosen?
We are going to, the committee is going to work on that
Okay.
and make sure that we get people that are representing everyone. That's the biggest thing that is important to me, is making sure that everyone has a voice through somewhere. We want to have as much diversity on this committee as we can possibly get.
Okay, would it be possible for council to make recommendations?
For people in the
For
community?
people in the community.
Absolutely,
Okay, thank you.
yes. Hearing nothing else, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. And we are now on 11M. We have a discussion with possible action to select an attorney to represent the city of Muscatine in potential litigation resulting from the removal of Greg Monsager from the office of city administrator. Are you going to run that? Councilman Malcolm.
Once again, Your Honor, I'd like to roll this to the next council meeting because I didn't get out the information that I didn't achieve. I didn't receive it till late this afternoon, and I didn't get it to other members and get it out for us to review. The resume of the person that I'd like to be considered for this position only, and also after having discussion. And I forgot what the professional resume is called. It's pretty extensive, and I'd like to have everybody have some time to digest it and process it and come up with reasonable questions. And let's talk about it at the next meeting, because I don't think, it's urgent, but I don't think it's, fire department, turn on the red lights urgent. We'll get to it. It gives everybody time to process and digest it, and let's talk when we had reasonable time to process it. Since I did get it out, my fellow councilman pointed, he received it at 5 something, and I go, yes, I sent it at 5 today.
Okay. We don't have a
That's okay.
motion.
Well,
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go-
Well, I would only offer that our next meeting is, we could have a special meeting, I suppose, but I don't think we get together again until the 6th of February.
Right.
And the opportunity for us to see an appeal from the former city administrator would be before that. So we could bump up against some timing, and not necessarily we'd have to respond immediately to that, but there is that to be considered to some extent.
We can call a special.
Councilman Gendrich was next.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
We originally sent out a request for proposal to have representation. And that request was answered by, I believe, 9 of the 12 requests that we sent out, which I think is pretty representative. And we had 2 law firms get back in touch with us, labor law specialists, highly qualified people. So we've had this opportunity, and I certainly respect Councilman Malcolm's feelings on this and so forth, but I think we need to get going. And a recommendation from the city manager or for other council members of how to proceed. I'm not sure what the availability or if there's any conflict with the 2 firms that are highly interested, highly qualified, good references, recommendations, and so forth, Davis Brown and Ehlers Cooney. I'd like to suggest to the council that we make a decision. And so that, that law firm, whoever we choose, has an opportunity to get rolling on this and get prepared if there should be any litigation. Respecting Councilman Osmond's request, certainly.
Thank you. Councilman Brackett?
I'll defer to Oz on this. My comment may change, but it was very similar to John's.
Go ahead.
My intent was moving away from getting a hard firm as opposed to an individual attorney. If you get a hard firm, then you got to pay for their parking lots, the lights, the legal secretary, the administrator, where if you got an attorney, you're paying for his expertise. He brings whatever, this guy agreed to do this at a rate of $160 an hour if we so chose him. And it's under the understanding he's just temporary part-time until we resolve our desires with a full council. The only thing he's gonna deal with is any issues that we have with this transition between administrators. That's it. At $160 an hour, and he's local, that saves a lot of money. We're not paying $300-400 an hour for a law firm. We're only paying $160 an hour for a attorney to do what we need. Yeah. He's not the cure, he's a Band-Aid. And I'm trying to keep the cost low.
We appreciate that. I mean, I always want to keep the cost low, but selecting the lowest cost solution is not always the best.
That's true.
Especially when we have a law firm, two that have responded that are reputable and one that has done work for us, it seems like in the past. I think we need to still keep them in play and consider them as just my recommendation and my thoughts.
I'd like to interject. Do we have and refresh me, because we didn't have any attachments on this particular item tonight, with was it Davis Brown was one, with them, and I know they provided us the hourly fees. Did they have a fee to, like a retainer that we would need to do with them because really there's nothing to do on this until something comes up.
No retainer was asked from them.
So I think that,
Could I offer one thing before?
Sure,
Maybe
go
this
ahead.
will, maybe this will help, or at least help us guide our thinking. I did receive some references from the Davis Brown group today and called 3 out of the four all four that we received, and only was able to talk to one, and it was John Bond, who is at ICAP. He's the gentleman who assigns attorneys for ICAP. And so he was named as a reference, and the attorney that we were offered from Davis Brown was Michelle Brott, and he spoke very highly of her. And we talked further about how we were considering them to help before we got to any litigation that ICAP may cover. And he went on to tell me that it's their intent to cover us from the beginning. So that if the appeal takes place, we will have ICAP with us, because they want to be part and parcel of this from the beginning.
okay.
So I went on to ask him if it's common or uncommon, or what his thoughts were about us having a writer or a partnership firm that may act on our behalf to ensure that we have no holes or gaps in our coverage. And he suggested that that's not uncommon to be done, and that he would welcome that. If that's what we wanted to do, we would get to pay for that.
So basically, we would pay for him to do the work that we want him to do, or her to do right now. And then if ICAP takes over, then they would use her to continue on at their cost.
To me, was that the ICAP will be paying her fees from the first, if we get an appeal request. He'll start right then covering fees.
Okay.
But I would guess I was thinking that we were looking at hiring somebody just to wade through some of the processes of this. I would think that would be at our expense.
Well, it is, if we choose to hire an attorney to help us do just that, it will be at our expense.
Right.
If we do something before we receive an appeal notification or some other notification of litigation, we will pay for that. And it's like he said, if we wanted to have additional counsel support our efforts, he's absolutely okay with that. And it's, in some complex cases, it's kind of recommended, so it's up to us what we want to do there. But if the Brown Davis Group would not be the firm that we would use then for this initial piece, most likely. I suppose we could hire them individually, but then they'll move over to the ICAP fee after it happens. His recommendation was to identify it, sort out what you want to do quickly, and then wait to get some notification of what's next.
Yeah, I guess I would, given that explanation, sorry, did I interrupt somebody?
Councilman Freilich
That's right,
next.
go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, I think given that particular information, I'd be inclined to sit. Because it sounds to me like that and/or get consensus from the council that if we do need to reach out to an outside firm prior to that, the interim city administrator have authorization to contact the Davis Brown firm. And then that way, you know, because there is a period of time between this meeting and the next one. So,
I'd just like to add that I've already done some research on Davis Brown. They're one of the top 3 in the state of Iowa for litigation, and I don't think we can make a mistake by going that way, but use them in the terminology that you plan to use them.
And I think it's important to have quality, top-notch labor law representation in this situation. You know, $100 an hour, Davis Brown, $280, Ehlers Cooney, $240, additional counsel with Ehlers Cooney, an additional $285. I would recommend, I didn't fully understand or, you know, comprehend what Kelsey was saying, but I think our council, you know, should be prepared to pay what we need to pay to Davis Brown to get processes up to speed. If something does occur, then we're all ready to go with Davis Brown to assist ICAP, and we're organized in the most top-notch way that we can put our heads together on. I certainly understand, you know, Oz's rationale and that type of thing, but I think we need to go with Greg's direction and others and that too.
Yeah.
Well, I know
Denny's
ICAP uses Davis
and
Brown.
then-
They hired an attorney for me before from Davis Brown.
Oh, yeah.
well, and my research on Davis Brown mirrors what the other council members have stated, you know, that they would be an excellent choice. So I think that, you know, I'm just saying, you know, we had possible action on this item. I think that, you know, we don't know, I mean, given the statement that the interim city administrator made, we, you know, may not need to engage them under, you know, our billing at all, because of how quickly ICAP will take over. But I do think it would be good to get the current information, you know, some current information to them on what's going on, and ask them if they have any recommendations. Maybe, you know, we could authorize up to, I don't know, maybe up to 4 hours right now, just to get them, you know, so they can get up to speed. I think that falls under your ability to spend without our, you know, without going through us anyway. So I guess I'd ask for a consensus that Greg be allowed to contact them and initiate that process so that he can get them on board.
He needs to also tell them, though, that it may not need them at all until their appeal.
Right, right.
Until there's an appeal.
Yeah,
So
but
that's part of the understanding.
Exactly.
Do we have a consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Sounds like we do.
So what's the exact consensus to allow Greg?
To have Greg reach out to the Davis Brown firm, don't exceed, you know, not to exceed, you know, 4 hours of billing with them initially without coming back to council. Provide them information about the situation and see if they have any advice prior to any action being taken.
Sounds good.
All right, our final issue of the evening is a discussion and possible action to consider moving forward with an RFP process for city attorney. Who's taking that lead?
Me.
Go ahead.
So we sent you some information
Uh-huh.
that kind of detailed out some of the rationale and about maybe some consideration for holding this for a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
My concern is, my number one concern is frankly that we're going to hire a new city administrator, and who's that person going to work most? Where will they spend most of their time? And it'll be with a new city administrator. And so I think that that person ought to be part and parcel of making this determination. I also think we have some litigation going on right now that is going to be a little bit trying to make a change. I talked to our current city administrator about some of this, and it will be a little bit pricey.
Attorney?
What did I say?
Administrator.
I mean,
That
if
would
you're
be
talking
you.
yourself.
That would be,
He wants a raise.
City attorney. I talked to our current city attorney, and it will be fairly pricey to get, move off of 2 of the current litigations that are underway. I mean, incredibly, if he's even allowed to do so, because
Right.
it's getting so tight to time to go. So you can talk about continuity of operations and the like, and people do change attorneys. I get that. So you get over those things. And so Mr. Brick was not, it's like, yep, you can do it. We get through these things in time. It could cost you some money to get to the other side of it, but we can do that. My concern is doing it right now without the new city administrator in place. And here we have some opportunity right now to just maintain some continuity in the House. And I would greatly appreciate if we would, let's put this off till July, if it's at all possible. It's not very long between now and get there. So if it's okay with you guys, that's what we would like to see happen.
I do think, I'll hear from council, but I do think we are always going to have ongoing litigation.
Yeah.
And I know that there are changes made, and so there's methods and processes for doing that, but I hear what you're saying. I understand that completely. Council? Yes.
I just think right now to change would be hard simply because we're already going through the current city administration law, so, or could possibly be doing that. I think it's time to leave as is until we get to the point where we have the new city administrator.
And it'll be a new fiscal year as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And, it's not bad for us to look at doing an RFP every 3 to 5 years, just to level set, make sure we're cost and that we're satisfied. But tabling it for now and letting the new administrator get their input, I think that's wise. And July might even be too soon. You might want to let that person get in and get settled. But I do think that we need to look at an RFP every 3 to 5 years, just so we can stay on top of things.
Go ahead. John, go ahead.
Well, I think, we should mention too, from Chief Talkington, his letter to us is very compelling about the relationship between our city attorney for civil matters and the county attorney for criminal matters, and all the collaboration that goes on there. And that disrupts that. And so I appreciate Chief's time, to, as well as Greg's, to, give us the rationales from those two parts of our city government. And, last Thursday night we heard from Matt Brick with Brick Gentry, and all the reports that he gave us, far from expert on my part, but answered all my questions, and I thought did a nice job. So in the matter with the normal flow of legal things that go on with our city, I'm quite content.
I would like to ask, and I've had several people in the community request, that we get some foundational documents on what expenses we have been paying to the city attorney, broken down by department. I think sometimes we might need to step back and take a look at that. I mean, people have told me that according to their calculations, we're close to $500,000 for the last 2 years. And so, and maybe that's way off, maybe it's not. I know some people are still struggling with OpenGov and drilling down to figuring all that out. So I think maybe some documentation on just what we have been paying to the city attorney, maybe broken down by departments, will help. And it sounds like we'll have a few months to be able to make that happen, and that'll help us as we try to move forward.
I still had.
Yes, go ahead.
So my comment is just on the open litigation issue. I mean, as it was stated, we're always going to have that, most likely. I mean, a municipal entity our size is always going to have some situation that requires an attorney, regardless of whether, it's criminal, civil, or real estate or something. And so I think that when we do this, if we end up in a situation where we do choose to go to a new firm, we should tie in there in a way where the new firm doesn't necessarily take over existing cases, that we look at having the current, Brick Gentry firm, if we were to leave them, and I'm not saying that we would, because maybe in the RFP process, it turns out they're the best choice and we stay with them. But as Peggy mentioned, I do also agree that this is something we should do on a regular basis to make sure that we're still getting the right services at the right costs. And an hourly rate doesn't tell us a whole lot. So using that as a basis for justification on why we stay with the current attorney is similar to what I've said in the past about saying, well, we've always done it that way, so we're going to keep doing it that way. That's not a good reason either. the total expense is what we want to look at versus, you know, and whether or not it was, you know, reasonable as a whole, you know, so the hourly amount doesn't mean a lot to me in that particular case. But I do think that the continuity thing should be able to be worked out where we have the existing firm, if we were to change, finish out any existing litigation that can't be easily handed over and move forward, you know, with a new firm on new things.
Agreed.
If that's the case, if we go that way. So.
And really looking at all options. Some communities our size have an in-house attorney, and they only work for us full-time and do our work. And in many situations, that many communities think that they get a better deal that way. They have them at every council meeting right there to answer questions as they go. And of course, they would certainly still need to hire experts when particular things came up, but we might as well look at all options that are afforded to us.
And yeah, and that, I absolutely agree with that as well, where, you know, yes, an individual attorney may not have all the expertise, but if we still have a firm like Brick Gentry or Davis Brown or one of the others on retainer, then for those items that that particular attorney wouldn't be able to handle, they can reach out. I mean, it's not like Brick Gentry, Matt Brick does all of the work. That's the thing. With that firm, there's other attorneys in that firm that handle different areas of expertise. The difference is with Brick Gentry, every time that we need somebody here physically, we're paying for all of the time they're in the car, all the way here, all the way back, every single time. And I do think it's been extremely valuable to have the city attorney at council meetings in the past. Anytime something comes up that is, you know, and tonight I don't think we really had anything other than this particular discussion maybe, but there are times where when Matt has been present, just his presence has made the council meeting go smoother and has also kept us from making errors that we weren't aware we were making, because having a city attorney present, they can catch those things when it happens, because that is their area of study and their area of expertise. So that's my stand. That's where I feel that having somebody that can be here at every meeting and be more present than as needed basis, you know, that we use right now. I mean, and
By
that we have
delaying
in the
this,
past.
that's going to allow us
Yes.
to understand our needs and our requirements and readjust things if we have to.
Absolutely.
So,
Am I getting consensus from everyone that we're going to delay this for a while and get our bearings and see where we're at and take another look in the new fiscal year? Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, we are down to number 12. Councilman Malcolm, do you have anything you'd like to share tonight?
No, everybody get a city flag. The Chamber of Commerce has agreed that they will also assist with the sales of flags, but I would like them to be given flags on consignment to sell and let them, I don't think, let them tie up monies. We have a few flags around, so if we could possibly give them, allow them to take whatever amount of flags they want and pay for them on the back end, let them have them on consignment, if that's not too hard to do. And secondly, I'd like to ask, can we change the flags? Last meeting, Roger came and talked about the fraying on the flags. And I looked at what he said and thought about it. Those flags are used for ceremonies and honors and parades with the fringes around. Normal flags, can we have a normal American and a normal state flag without the fringes? Because he was definitely correct, even though he spent, 30 minutes talking about it, but it just seems like forever. And he keeps bringing it up, and I finally looked at it and thought about it. It's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. We're in violation of carrying flags that are only used for parades and ceremonies. Can we just have normal flags? And of course, we already have the Muscatine flag. Everybody needs a Muscatine flag.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Councilman Freilich, do you have anything tonight?
Yeah, I just like to bring up and see if I can get a little council consent to have a further discussion on the Fulham and Hauser Streets. I know Brian has sent us out, and I read it thoroughly, Brian, and I appreciate the fact. But I still think with the addition of the new housing addition that's going to be on West Fulham, and the traffic problems, that I sat up there today for 2 hours and watched traffic. And at times, it is exactly right, there's no traffic. But at the next moment, when that high school and the schools, McKinley and West and Mulberry all let out, the traffic is atrocious. I agree that I don't know what the solution is, but I'd sure like to have the discussion. I'd like to have the consensus to be put on the agenda for next.
Yeah, I think that we're at a point though where if you, as a council member, if you get it in time, it, you know, I mean, the way the code, the way that council rules are written, you can just ask for that to be put on the agenda.
I'd like to have
And I
it put
think
on.
I responded to your email. I
Yes.
had 2 calls also this week about, can we just put a stop sign on there? Even if it's only for during school in and out, but or even just put a 4-way stop there and leave it there, like we did when we were doing construction.
I think
So-
I think we need to have a further discussion with
Agreed. Yeah.
city
Do you want
staff
it on the in-depth or the regular meeting?
on the regular meeting on the 6th.
6th.
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I'd like to see a member or 2 of the Muscatine Community School District Board included in that, because I think they need to help us with that problem, since it's the school traffic that's causing most of the problem.
I agree.
They're having discussions to that level right now.
They are? Okay, great, thank you.
So if somebody would take that on to make sure that they know and invite them to that meeting, that would help. All right, anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Brockert.
Riverbend neighbors meet Monday evening at 7 p.m. at Fire Station Number 2. Dress warm.
Yeah.
And I'd like to thank our street department in advance for their time and effort this weekend.
In advance. Yep.
This coming weekend?
And last weekend too, even though
last
it didn't
weekend.
come to fruition like they had said, but certainly the crews were still out, keeping it from getting bad. Was that it for you?
Yes.
Councilman Gendrich?
Well, I'm hoping this program is highly rated and watched in the community, because I think either yesterday morning or this morning, the Muscatine Community School District and high school kicked off their We Are One campaign to renovate, new field, football stadium, and so forth. And I think anything we can do to promote that and make this consensus across the whole community, that's a vital part of having a top-quality public school system and the football stadium. The football stadium, it doesn't house 4 or 5 varsity football games a year. Community events, marching band, PE classes, practices of all different levels, one thing after another. So anyone in the community that needs more accurate information than what I can certainly give needs to make sure they get in touch with our school administration, and our community needs to make sure that we support that, We Are One campaign.
And I know they're postponing, where there was gonna be a meeting yesterday morning at 7:30, but it got
Okay.
postponed because
Okay.
of the weather, and so they said they're gonna be getting that information out soon.
Okay,
So
good.
everybody has an opportunity to join in. It's an excellent project, moving forward. Thank you. Councilwoman Gordon.
Nothing tonight, Mayor, thank you.
Councilman Hopkins.
I'd like to speak on something Councilwoman Brockert said. I don't see why this body can't meet once every 3 months with the school board. Likewise with the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors. The council used to do that, but then there were a couple of individuals, one on each side, that didn't get along, so they discontinued the meetings. I'd like to see us get back into that.
I 100% agree, and I have had some correspondence with people on the school board as well as people on the county board of supervisors, and it's my understanding that they are welcoming that as well. We talked about it a couple years ago, but it didn't go anywhere, and so I'd be very pleased to have that happen.
As would I. I had
Yes.
made that recommendation about a year ago,
Yes.
and it was shot down. So I appreciate you for bringing it back up. Thank you.
Yes.
I think we have the opportunity to spread it out even countywide. I mean, we've talked about that. I would be glad to help
Yes, you and
with
I
the
talked
committee.
about that before as well.
So we can
Yes.
get some things scheduled, we just need to do it.
Yes,
That's all I have, thank you.
thank you. Thanks for bringing that up. Councilman Brackett.
I had a question, and it might be more of a, can somebody look into it? I had someone from the Clark House reach out asking about the condition of the sidewalks there, and I'll admit, I have not had a chance to get over there since this request was made, but they indicated that they felt the sidewalks were in disrepair. I have not personally looked at it. I wondered if the next staff member that gets over could take a look at that and see, and then let me know if they require any repair, and if they do, what the time frame would look like on that, and recognizing that you can't probably pour any concrete right now if you needed to, but if I could just get some answers on that, that'd be great. And then I just, want to wholeheartedly agree with Councilman Hopkins on his suggestion. I applaud that and would look forward to that as well.
I will reach out to Jeff Sorensen, who I believe is the chair now.
He is.
Yes. I'll reach out to him and Tammy Drawbaugh and see if we can't get something put together. I think it'd be wonderful. Very good move forward for the city, county, school board. Anything else?
That's all, thank you.
Staff? Greg,
So-
Cinda?
So there'll be a public meeting for the West Hill 4C Sewer Separation Project. Will take place Wednesday, January 29th at 5:30 in the lower level conference room here at City Hall. And then there's going to be the hazard mitigation plan is going to be moved forward. The planning process for the 2020 hazard mitigation plan update is underway. A draft of the plan is expected to be complete in February. And there'll be 2 public meetings held to allow community members to review the plan. There'll be Tuesday, February 11th, 5:30 to 6:30 at the Musser Public Library, room 104. And Thursday, February 13th, 6 to 7 at West Liberty's Public Library. Both meetings, a short presentation will be followed by an opportunity for members of the public to look at a draft copy of the plan, ask questions, and offer feedback. As a bonus, both libraries have agreed to hold on to a copy of the draft plan for 2 weeks after the meeting to allow members of the public to review.
And I would just say there's been a lot of hard work done on the hazard mitigation plan. I know Fire Chief Evers has been going to those meetings. Bi-State has been helping us with that we're a member of Bi-State, and that's one of the things that they've done for us is help us through that process with updating our hazard mitigation plan. And we have had really good support from a variety of different places weighing in and attending the meeting. So it's going to be a really good plan when it's all said and done. So very pleased to see that move forward. Thank you. I just had a few things. Our city this week, we're going to have Amy Hustle with our youth character development come and talk to us about some of the programs that they're doing with youth to try to help them build core values of caring, honesty, respect, responsibility, and help them eventually become good stewards and citizens in our community. And then Dave Pop, the following week, our solid waste manager, is going to come and talk about all the changes to Spring Cleanup Week. I'm sure that most of you have had some calls or comments with questions about, well, what about this and what about that? And so Dave's going to come and give us the whole skinny on what we all need to know about Spring Cleanup Week. I'm very, very pleased that I've had really good comments from people in the community about the changes. So I think it's going to be a real positive thing for us moving forward. Our next coffee with the mayor is January 31st at 9 a.m. on a Friday morning at Hy-Vee, something different this month. And the other thing that I just wanted to share is Eagles and Ivories is coming up, not this coming weekend, but the next weekend. We won't have a meeting before then. So it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday that week, all different things going on. The fees are very, very reasonable, and the venues change throughout the weekend. So if you go online with Muscatine County Arts Council, on the Facebook page even, you can get a copy of the program and see all the different things going on that entire week. I think it's wonderful how they bring in not only youth, so they go and do some of their performances in the school system so that they can see it, and then they also go to Sunnybrook one day so that they can take it out to the elderly people as well. So I love how the whole community comes in, and Muscatine is really known for this Eagles and Ivories project. I mean, it is really something. It's the biggest ragtime festival in the state of Iowa is right here in Muscatine. People come from all over, all different states to come to this. And so we'll see a flood of people here, not this weekend, the next weekend. Lastly, the Kids First Fund. I know most of you probably know what the Kids First Fund is, but it's a project that has been going on for many, many years through the United Way of Muscatine, and it's a fund that they keep for youth to be able to, who might not be able to be involved in sports, in music, in camp, in different things like that, that they might maybe, I mean, it's expensive for your children to be involved in these things, and they might need an instrument, or they might need cleats for soccer, or they might need summer camp fees, or a sleeping bag to go to camp, or whatever it is. The Kids First Fund, they do several different fundraisers throughout the year, and then if a child needs help with one of those things, it's very easily accessed through the United Way. It can be done in a day. Just make a phone call, stop in, talk to them, and they'll help them be able to be involved, because we want our youth to be able to be involved in everything that they possibly can, and certainly not be able to participate because of finances is something none of us want. So they're always working on building up this fund to help our youth, and they will be having tomorrow morning at First National Bank in the Walnut Room from 7 to 9 a pancake breakfast, give a free will donation, and help support the fund to help our children be involved. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Have a wonderful couple weeks. Stay warm and safe this weekend. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.
I called it 8:30.